best horror movies are always about something deeper. These movies use horror and the sense of fear to tell bigger personal stories in a contained claustrophobic setting. Hereditary is really a film about familial trauma passed down through generations. I Know What You Did Last Summer is a movie about the unending sense of fear a guilty conscience can cause, and Primate is about vaccines. Hey everyone, I'm Joe from Create Context, and today we're looking at Primate, directed by Johannes Roberts. Remember the subplot of Jordan Peele's 2020 film Nope? The one involving a Hollywood chimpanzee named Gordy, who one day turned on his fellow cast and crew. Gordy had been a stage animal for years, and during one particular shoot, one shot in front of a live studio audience, a miscalculated balloon pop caused Gordy to forget all his training and violently attack members of the cast and crew. With this subplot, Peele was able to portray several different complex themes and ideas that were presented alongside his film. Gordy was a trained animal, but an animal nonetheless. One used for entertainment who eventually turned on his masters. This theme drew parallels to many of the other larger themes at play in his film, like black actors in Hollywood, taming the untamable, and the camera lens being specifically put in places it doesn't belong for nothing more than money-making exploitation. The scene of Gordy going bananas and turning on those he thought was safe was the perfect allegory for the flying saucer, the forgotten stagehands, and the exploitation of black workers in Hollywood for centuries. Primate isn't about any of that stuff. This is literally just a movie about a chimpanzee that gets rabies and goes absolutely ape on a group of partying teens. Maybe if you look real deep, there might be a theme about making sure your pets get their rabies shots, but that's probably giving this movie too much credit. This is just a haunted house movie where the house is in Hawaii and the monster is a pet chimp, and it kind of rules. There are a lot of flaws in Primate. It is by no means a perfect movie, but for a 90-minute horror flick that's releasing at the beginning of January, it is a pretty fun time at the movies. Johannes Roberts has a surprisingly long pedigree of B and C horror films. Recently, he served as the second unit director on The First Omen, an underrated prequel to a series that certainly didn't need a prequel. And before that, he helmed 47 Meters Down, Strangers Pray at Night, and one of the dozens of Resident Evil adaptations. Roberts isn't a prestige director. He isn't making elevated horror. He's seemingly just making what he loves. Horror movies that toe that ever so slippery tightrope between slop and entertainment. He's been doing it for years, and with Primate, I believe, in my opinion, he's delivered his best work. The movie begins with an epic face rip of a goofy veterinarian before shooting us 36 hours in the past to meet our gang of partying teen victims. None of these victims are particularly memorable. They're a group of attractive young people accompanying their equally attractive friend to her father's house in Hawaii for no reason other than her father has a house in Hawaii. When they arrive, the new girl soon learns that the family has a pet chimpanzee for plot reasons, and we are introduced to the cute, lovable red t-shirt wearing Ben. Personally, I find chimps and monkeys pretty unsettling. I don't like their human-type hands, their large teeth, or that screeching sound they make when they're agitated. Some people love them. I just can't get on board. So this movie already had me concerned with the entire family's lack of concern with a wild chimpanzee in their home. I've seen not only Nope, but the incredible documentary Chimp Crazy, which chronicled what an absolutely horrible idea it is to keep a chimp, or any exotic animal for that matter, as a pet. Seriously, just don't do it. It never ends well. In Primate, Ben is bitten by a rabid mongoose, which causes him to go insane and start murdering off the teens one by one in extraordinarily gruesome fashion. This movie doesn't hold anything back with its gore. It opens with a gnarly face rip and only continues the skull-crushing, jaw-ripping gore that this type of movie wants you to see. If you're going to make a movie about a murderous primate, you might as well go all the way with it, and Roberts certainly does. As I said, there are a few flaws with Primate, but it would be silly if this movie didn't have flaws. There are some trite plot devices like a deaf father and a dead mother that don't really add anything to the narrative and just feel like plot points for the sake of plot points. None of the main actors have much to do other than being attractive and getting murdered. And the setting of Hawaii is relegated to little more than a few panning drone shots. A large portion of this movie's runtime puts the kids in a house pool hiding from Ben because he's afraid of water. And it's like, hey, if you're in Hawaii, why couldn't you just get the kids out to the ocean somehow? Just write that in there. That would be way better. So much of this movie feels constrained in a weird way that I was actually pretty pleased when the token drunken frat boys who just want to get laid show up to become inevitable monkey food. But these quibbles are just looking deeper at a movie that desperately wants you to take it at face value. Primate is a movie about a chimp that goes crazy and murders sexy teens. If that sounds like a fun time at the movies to you, then you're in luck. You will love this movie. Everything else, the setting, the shoehorn plot devices, it only exists because some studio note said there needed to be more motivation. Johannes knew what he wanted to make, and he did it. This isn't the best film of the year. It won't redefine creature features, but it's a perfectly acceptable way to waste an hour and a half at the cinema. And at the end of the day, that's all I really want. Thank you guys so much for hanging out at the Weekly Movie Minute. Again, I'm Joe from Create Context. If you like this, you can please subscribe. That would be super cool. And I'll see you guys next time.